Welcome to the Charlyn Show. Now, please help me welcome the host, God's woman, Charlyn.
Welcome to the Charlyn Singleton Show. This is part 2 of our Reparations Roundtable event that was hosted here at Loveland Church a few weeks ago. If you have not gone to Ancestry.com or 23andMe and started tracing your lineage, you need to do that. Now, some of what's going on right now, seriously, might not even take place during our lifetime. Hopefully it is. It will. But there's so much behind these reparations. You know, it's like, what will reparations look like? Okay, is it just about money? No. Is it about a handout? No. It's about a hand up. It's about, once again, looking at our history to see, well, what could be done for all the black people in America, the African Americans who helped build this country, who were kidnapped and then forced to work for free to help build this country. So there's some economic opportunities that need to be looked at. There are some educational opportunities that need to be considered. Might be that more African Americans, black Americans, have the opportunity to go to school and either for free or not pay as much. Now keep in mind, and we've just heard this, but once again, I've been doing my own research. And I know with the Japanese internments, I know that America, when decided to do reparations for Japanese, they all got $20,000. But it's not just about money. It's about housing opportunities. It's about land. It's about land restoration. So here in part 2, we're going to be talking about AB 3121, AB 3121, the Task Force Interim Report, and NAASD Year in Review. This is going to be just, it's a joy when you get vision and you see where God is headed, where God is leading us. And once again, I remember when Martin Luther King said, you know, we're going to get to the promised land. We might get there, not get there when we want to get there, but we will. I believe the day is going to come that America will make the proper amends, the proper reparations to the black community on the harm that has been meted out to our community. And like I said, for some, that does not just look like money. It is economic opportunity. It is land. It is educational opportunities. They are housing opportunities. But all that starts with vision. Vision comes with awareness, awareness of our history, awareness of where we are right now. So stay tuned, watch the show. As you're watching it, ask God to show you what you can do to help this movement.
Dr. Brown, Dr. Amos Brown, he is the co-chair of the California Reparations Task Force. And he's also the pastor of Third Baptist Church and the president of the NAACP San Francisco branch. And so I want you all to give a big round of applause, a warm round of applause for this man of God. Thank you, Dr. Brown, for being here with us today.
I regret that I was not able to be there with you in person, but we've had over our fair share of dealing with social justice issues here in San Francisco. And let me say parenthetically at the outset, we are very happy to connect with our old friend, now you believe it, over half a century. Dr. Chuck Singleton. And many of us across this country who've been in the prophetic tradition of ministry have always been encouraged by the present prophetic utterances and, more important, the downright decency that resides in his frame. He epitomizes love supreme. The church that he pastors is, as Sweet Dana Grace indicated years ago, tangibilization of gospel. Many people talk about the gospel, preach about it, they sing about it, they shout about it, but they don't know how to make it tangible, reincarnated in us. I secondly would like to commend all of those of you who gather around the round table in order that we might reason together. That's what Isaiah, in first chapter, says. Come, let us reason together. This nation, I contend, from the very beginning, has lost his mind, and to use the words of my teacher, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who, when he was about to preach the last sermon on this earth, had scribbled some notes with the title of that sermon. He never preached. Will America go to hell? Will America go to hell? Well, let me submit to you this day. We were not talking about that physical hell. Dr. King was not talking about a physical hell. But that state of being, ruinous, damnable, and downright. I contend that our situation may be like the times when we have a breakdown with our car, vehicle. Those who are fortunate enough to have AAA know that you are surely going to make it home or to your destination anyhow, because you have a little card in your possession, a AAA card. You all know that whenever you call AAA, the person who answers says, among other things, are you in a safe space? Are you in a safe space? You will answer, yes or no. But I contend today that America is not in a safe space. We are in a dangerous, ruinous, divisive, evil space. Why? Because we don't know how to be good anymore in recent times. But historically, we were not good to each other. Let me take you way back. The 4th century BC, before America supposedly was discovered by, we are told, erroneously, one Christopher Columbus. During the 4th century BC, my friend, Aristotle, one of great minds, so we say, of Western thought, said in his Politics, and I quote him, you can Google it when you go home, in the Politics, Aristotle said, black man of the Ethiopian is inferior because his skin is dark. He went on to say, among other things, the only way we could become somebody, be a part of the human family, we would have to go way up northern climate Europe and become light. Second, insane thing that he said was that we would never be capable of self-government. We would never be capable of self-government, I repeat. But that we would always have to have white man or white woman over us. End of the quote. What does this give rooted the basis for? I submit to you words of Jim Wallace, my friend. America was infected with that original sin, and that sin, racism, bigotry, and being mean as hell to black folks because of the color of our skin. That's why Western European powers, France, Belgium, England, Spain, went down to Mother Africa and saw us as potential tools, not human beings, but tools, for their comfort, for their white entitlement, and for them to be on their seats of power and authority. If for no other reason, this topic that you're dealing with today, reparations, it is right. Talk about it. Right on. Do something about it. And understand that America must do three things. We're going to get out of this unsaved state that's about to destroy us of being enslaved to racism, to that original sin of being mean as hell, black folk. Well, let's take letter A, number one. This nation has got to admit that it did a wrong, an egregious wrong. And that's where we are now, in an unsafe space. You got that man down there in Florida, DeSantis, now, talking to foolish about something he didn't know anything about. Critical race theory. What is critical race theory? There's no boogeyman. It is an exercise to bring the world to the truth. The truism that there was this bad treatment of us, making us too, because a man named Aristotle said that we were not human and were not to be in charge of our own self-government and destiny. That's why they right now telling all the lies about what should be taught in school. Do you know right down there in Ocala, Florida, just last week, I repeat, there was sent out to the school form letter asking parents, is it all right for your child to learn, lift every voice and sing? That great hymn that came from a poem that one James Baldwin Johnson, that great intellect and scholar, who was president, executive director of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the first black president. He wrote that poem, 1900, which was the anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. And on that day, 1900 at Stanton School, where he was principal. He decided that on the occasion they were honoring the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, but also great Booker T. Washington was the principal speaker, that he would not give a functionary introduction of Booker T. Washington, but he wrote a poem. That poem was about the struggles of black folk, about how we made it when hope unborn had died, how we made it and showed the world that we had culture and we had dignity and we had souls, we had love in our hearts and minds. Just think about it. In our time, in 2023, you have an evil, white, Hispanic man who's leading a movement to say you can't know the truth about what happened to black folk. And consequently, ever you have that kind of a mentality afoot in a society, you're on your way to becoming a fascist state. Many people wouldn't listen years ago. And when Donald Trump got out there, being the mouthpiece for this movement, they would not listen. You come to the point, right now, people are still in a state of denial and won't admit evil of racism. 96 years, sometimes benign neglect. You can't have heaven, you can't have peace when you don't tell the truth. Remember, Jesus said, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Free. So, first aid is to admit, and stop being like a drug addict in a state of denial, not dealing with reality. America must come to the truth and admit our wrong, being complicit in that slave trade that brought our ancestors to this land against our will. Secondly, you got that card, that other mean. It means atonement. Atonement. What is atonement? Oh, you can find it, brothers and sisters, in that 19th chapter of St. Luke. I don't have time to expand on it. Do you remember the experience of a man named Zacchaeus? Couldn't see Jesus because of the crowd. You know how he got up in that tree? Because he was elevated, he had the right vision of Jesus. Jesus told him to come down and go home with him. He got home. They sat down and talked. Jesus got into his business. And old Nicodemus, after he admitted his wrong as a tax collector, after he had admitted his wrong as a publican, after he had admitted his wrong of being complicit with wrong and taking for living a rogue life. You know the story goes. He said, Master, if I have wronged anybody, I make amends. I atone. And if I have unjustly treated anybody by taking some money from them that I shouldn't have taken with those taxes, I'm going to pay back fourfold. That is, my brothers and sisters, Reparations. That is the book. No bias, prejudice, state. Now, after we have said we're going to atone, finally, that A is act. Act. You don't make no wrong analysis. You don't engage in 3D when you're done. You don't engage in repeated analysis. You act and do something about it. So now is the time, America, for the state, and for your city and my city. Act and pay back. So that's it.
I'm going to talk to you about a couple things that I was specifically asked to talk about, and I'm not going to show any slides. Okay? I want you to focus on what I'm saying, the sound of my voice. Okay? I'm going to talk about the California Reparations report a little bit. I'm going to talk about some of the other work that CJEC is doing around reparations and what we call reparative justice, so stuff related to reparations. My brother Chad talked about one of those things. CJEC, as we call ourselves, we are a coalition of organizations, associations, regular black folks, as we like to call ourselves, who got involved for reparations. Right now, we are California's first and only, so far as we know, first and only statewide organization born for reparations. That's all we do. That's all we do. Reparations and what we call reparative justice, so stuff related to reparations, which one of those things I'm going to talk about in a minute in my third story, and one of those things my brother Chad talked about earlier, which is making sure that our country sees us as a specific group of people. I don't know if you understand how, or yet understand how important the words that my brother Chad spoke were earlier about the need for our government to see us as a specific group of people. I was talking earlier, I think I was talking to Chad and to the council member. Yes, that matters for reparations work. Yes, those who will be eligible for reparations are those who are descendants of U.S. slavery. Great, yes, right. That's the right thing to do. But even outside of the reparations work, we deserve that as a people. We deserve as a people to be recognized by our government, especially the people that built this country. I said this, I think I said this in some testimony to the task force at some point, in public comment rather. We've been here 400 names. It's a damn shame we don't have a name. We've been here 400 years. It's a damn shame we don't have a name. Our country has not seen us as a specific group of people almost ever. Today, as mentioned, I've been asked to talk up to you about the California Reparations Task Force's first report, and I'm going to get to that, and some of the harms against Black American descendants of U.S. chattel slavery. But so, some of the things I'm going to tell you, you may not have heard, but you know what it's like for our people. I mean, you live it. And we could just go outside. You know what our people going through, what we going through, what you personally are going through. You know it. But I am going to talk a little bit about what the California Reparations Task Force has discovered and uncovered about the way that our lives are being lived. I'm also going to talk to you about, in my third story, as I mentioned, the other type of work that we do around reparative justice, so stuff related to reparations. So there's reparations, and then reparative justice means to us stuff related to reparations. I'm also going to talk to you about the fight that we're in right now to end current slavery going on in California state prisons. Okay. Again, fittingly, in this Black History Month, we are living and writing Black reparations history right now. But, take this out with me. What will it say about us, though? What will history say about us now? What will it say about you? What will it say about me? What will history say about us now. Will it say, when you learned and became aware that you answered the call of history? Will it say, when you learned and became aware that you rose to the occasion? Some familiar words, as I promised. And if thy brother, a Hebrew man or a Hebrew woman, be sold unto thee and serve thee 6 years, then in the 7th year thou shalt let him go free from thee. And when thou sendest him out free from thee, thou shalt not let him go away empty. Thou shalt furnish him liberally out of thy flock, and out of thy floor, and out of thy winepress, of that wherewith the Lord thy God hath blessed thee, thou shalt give unto him. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondsman in the land of Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee. Therefore I command thee to do this thing. Now these are the words of God as spoken to the prophets, of course, in Deuteronomy. I think you know and have heard some of those familiar words, but there are some unfamiliar words that you may or may not be familiar with. Quote, we use black power to create white guilt. My approach is biblical. How can I ask my Heavenly Father to forgive me if I can't forgive my brother? On reparations, I feel it continues to let us know that we're still African Americans and rather than just American. Reparations or atonement, it's outside of the teaching of Jesus Christ. Now, by the way, anybody know who said those last words? Close? No. Closer? Close to nope, close, very close. Those are the words of none other than Herschel Walker. Everybody was very close. Who just lost his try to be the U.S. Senator from Georgia. Herschel Walker spoke those words, saying, again, I quote, reparations or atonement is outside of the teaching of Jesus Christ. He uttered those words, and this is serious, in front of the entire country, on national TV, in testimony to the United States House of Representatives at the most recent H.R. 40 reparations hearings, I believe in 2020. In front of the whole country. He told the whole country, and this should make you mad as believers, that reparations is outside of God's teaching. So as angry and as furious as these words made me, and no doubt make you, I still and do take comfort in the words of the Lord, who says, fools mock at reparations, but among the upright there's favor. Okay? Every one of you should have one of these. It was, I think, attached to your program. These are our California reparations information cards. We take them pretty much everywhere we go. If you want some of these, please send us an email at cjecofficial@gmail.com. We'll get you some basic California reparations information. I'm going to give you a quick basic here. Hopefully I can do this in 2 to 3 minutes. In 2020, our current governor, Gavin Newsom, signed a piece of legislation. We've been calling it AB 3121, Assembly Bill 3121. The number of the bill doesn't matter as much as the fact that the governor signed a law that created what is now a 9-member task force, and you see all 9 members of the task force here on this information card. You have one here in the house with you, and you just heard from Dr. Brown. You heard from the chair earlier, and you heard from the co-chair just before me. 9 members on a California reparations task force, or a group of people whose job it is to do 3 things. These 9 people have to do 3 things, and they have 2 years to do it. The first thing they have to do, these 9 people, is study slavery with a specific focus on what California is guilty for. That's the first thing. The second thing these 9 people have to do is educate the public about what it learns. The third thing these people have to do is create a plan for reparations. They have 2 years to do those 3 things. 2 years from the day they started working to do those 3 things. As it says here on the card, the task force started in 2021, June of 2021. So June of 2021 plus 2 years means until June or the end of June of 2023. This year, that means this year in the summer, the final reparations plan will be released publicly with the reparations plans in it. So Chair Moore spoke about the 5 forms of reparations. Compensation, that's the money part. I say it all the time, but if it doesn't have compensation, it ain't reparations to me. Restitution, the return of land and or property, etc. Rehabilitation, what you might think of as the non-financial stuff, so free education, free health care, etc., free legal services. Guarantees of non-repetition or protections, as I like to think about them. Change the laws and the policies to make sure what happened to us never happens again. And satisfaction, some of the things that we think of as satisfaction doesn't mean being satisfied. It means things like a public apology, changing our history and our textbooks to make sure that they tell the actual truth, taking down racist landmarks and putting up our stuff instead, things like that. 5 forms of reparations. The task force, as I mentioned, has 2 years to do those 3 things and release a final plan as the third thing in July or June of this year. But what happens after that plan is released, though? Like, it doesn't mean like the reparations happen in June or July, do they? No. That plan then gets sent to the governor, to the state senate, to the state assembly, to then write into legislation to become a California reparations bill and hopefully law. When is the earliest we can expect to see something like that? So, June or July of this year, plan comes out. That's already too late in the year to do any new bills or new laws. Every year there's a deadline after which you can't do any new laws. So that's already too late. So the earliest we will see any California reparations legislation or bills that we want to become law is sometime around this time next year. So early 2024, just to make it simple. Early 2024 is the earliest I expect that we will see a reparations bill, which will have the 5 forms of actual reparations in it, with an actual price tag on it, with how much and how much of what, and as we've heard about, for who. So the task force, the state reparations task force, did 2 very important things last year. The first thing it did, I think was very, very important, was what some of my family already talked about, which was decide who would be eligible for reparations in California. As Chair Moore said, I think my brother Marcus said also, who else are you going to be talking about but the descendants of U.S. slavery? I mean, if we're talking about reparations for slavery, who else are you going to be talking about? Who else matters? So it's a moral right or wrong thing first. There's some other arguments for it too, right? I think the other most important thing to say, and I'll just sort of re-say what my family said, which is that in California, legally and what we call constitutionally, we have to write legislation in a way that doesn't violate the law and violate the Constitution. If your reparations legislation says anybody who checks a box and says they're black gets it, it's almost certainly illegal and will not happen. There won't be no reparations if that's what it says. The other important thing that the task force did in its first year was release this first report. Very, very important report. If you want to get an online copy of this report, go to our website, www.cjec-official.org. And as soon as you get on the home page, like in the first 3 seconds, you'll get a pop-up, and then it'll take you, it'll say, read the first reparations report, and then you can click the link and it'll take you right there. Okay. My friends, I want to end with this. My brothers, my sisters, what will history say about you in this time? What will it say? What will God say about you? God is calling you. Our ancestors are calling you. I'm calling you. The time is now. Will you answer?
The National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants is obviously a national org. That's why we put the word in the title. We're a nonprofit 501c3 organization, and we are committed to advancing the national movement for compensatory reparations for Black Americans who descend from U.S. chattel slavery. We focus on essentially teaching. We teach freedmen history. I was beside myself with Dr. Bryan this morning, teaching some of that history here. And we view our goals as being achieved through engagement, empowerment, and unity. And basically, we give people the tools to self-advocate. And what you saw here today, you saw Chris from CJEC, and Chris actually helped me do this. We pulled a bunch of folks off of social media, and I was like, Chris, I'm gonna run for office. I don't have time to do this. I need you to come in and help me figure this out. And Chris really came and helped lay a sizable amount of the foundation for what we have today. And there were several ideations of how we would get to this point, but we finally arrived here. And the work that we do has touched across the nation, and you'll see that. Next slide. These are all the places thus far, and this list is growing, that through our national network, we have been able to either educate people, the municipal level, the state level, or the federal level, in the push for federal repair. So all down south, North Carolina, South Carolina, Kentucky, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Illinois, Ohio, Brooklyn, New York. I'll be in Albany next week talking to the state folks there, New Jersey, Silver Spring, Maryland, Vegas, and all of California. We just up and down California. Next slide, please. These are some of the different organizations that we have worked with over time, and I'm not going to name them all. They're up there, but they are representative of some of the other places that you saw in the last slide. But these are the modern day reparationists. We talked about ARC, Black Equity Institute, the Black Remembrance Project, Freedmen Association of Chicago, the Canopy Collective, Solidarity, Ohioans for Federal Reparations, the NAACP in San Fernando Valley. These are the people who are doing the work today. These are the people who are making their mark. These are the people who are, coalition building with each other to get this job done. Next slide, please. Municipalities. So at the national level, we really do believe in a three-pronged approach, because that is what has been very effective here in California. We have the National Assembly of American Slavery Descendants. We have CJEC, which is a coalition of essentially municipal bodies that still do reparations in their locale. And that three-pronged approach has really, really worked well for us. And these are the places we have either taught and or consulted with other advocates to make sure that they're following the pathway that California set. Next slide, please. Moguldom, I put them on the top. They're a little paper, just, but Ashika, and I forget Ashika's last name. She is someone at Moguldom who writes about everything that we do, any of these organizations. She writes about the experts. She writes about the different states and municipalities that come online. She was recognized for an award at our summit in Atlanta. But these media, a lot of them, I don't know, black media, Moguldom, LA Sentinel, The Observer, WLBT, Epic Times, these are some of the media that has covered the work that we have done. Next slide. Harrison, Ashika Harrison, for the people in the Zoom. Next slide, please. So this was our inaugural summit, and you all heard from the incomparable Chair Camila Moore from the California Reparations Task Force. We also had Dr. Weber, and we had John Tateishi. We took a lot of flack for having John at our summit, but the one thing about the human experience is we do have the opportunity to learn from each other. And Japanese internment has been the national sort of standard for America actually taking a national recognition of reparations and actually putting dollars to their legislation. And so we had him open up our summit in Georgia. Next slide, please. These are the awards that were given out. And as you see, Chris did actually sort of clean up between him and CJEC. And so we just want to recognize again, Chris Logson, Fannie Lou Hamer Award. We tried to tie it to our past. Ida B. Wells went to Politics in Black. That's a show I co-host. It's Friday Jones with Chad Brown. The MLK Award for Outreach, CJEC. Chris is an organizer's organizer. He is an organizer's organizer. He is an organizer's organizer. So if there's anybody here in Riverside that thinks they want to organize, you need to go talk to Chris Logson. The Frederick Douglass Award for Cultural Activism. Camila Moore has a hard job as the chair of the California Task Force. And so we recognized her. Stella Award for Support. There's always people that's behind the scenes. There's always people who are not in front of the camera. There are always people that are making sure that we stay in line. Crystal Gordon and Raphael Plunkett were those people. They were nominated. Any photo that you see of NAASD is typically coming from Raphael. She is a documentarian, and we have seen those photographers become the keepers of our history, and Raphael is one of those people. The Selma Award for Courage went to the Freedmen of Chicago because that is the ground of conflict where reparations is concerned on a national level. And those people in Chicago stayed on the Freedmen pathway and really focused on the descendants and not trying to make reparations into a cure-all like affirmative action. And so we recognize them. The Wilmington Award for Excellence in Organization, again, the organizer's organizer, CJEC. Ferguson Award for Discipline and Purpose, the U.S. Freedmen Project, and I will stop here for a second to talk about them. They are based in New York. The last, I want to say 2 years, there has been an attempt to put reparations legislation through at the state level. The problem was California, because California set a bar for the focusing the priority on the descendant community. And so I've worked with them, Chris has worked with them, and next week I'll be in Albany with them at their Black, Puerto Rican, Haitian, Asian, and Pacific Islander caucus, and I'll be telling them the same story I told you about the same people, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, all them same people. I will go there and I will tell them that I went to Concord Baptist Church. I will tell them that Concord Baptist Church sent me to Christian camp up in upstate New York at Sunshine Acres Christian Camp. I'll tell them that I went to Juma on Friday with my dad because he was Muslim and that's what we do. I'll share the same stories. And I will tell them that they need to understand that the legislation that is being asserted by Assemblywoman Nikki Lucas, who is the borough state senator for Brooklyn, that legislation is the right legislation. And it's the right legislation because we took the people from California, we looked at how much money California spent, we looked at some of the shortcomings in terms of no real allocation of marketing dollars or education dollars so that communities could see billboards plastered to even know that the AB 3121 task force was happening. We took some of the early recommendations of the task force, including a need for a New York Freedmen's Bureau, and we put it in the bill. We said this is what we learned. So we educated the next state coming online, and because, yeah, I am from Brooklyn, and I may have been living here for a long time, but I have family still there. My grandmother, everybody except for me. My great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother lived in Kingsborough Projects. Kingsborough Projects was one of the Black projects. And so when Levittown started being built out in Long Island, and our great federal government gave money to those builders and developers and allowed them to not write Black people in, my great-grandmother left Kingsborough Projects when she was 102 years old, and she went into Concord Baptist Church's senior home. So I'm vested in New York, in case y'all couldn't tell. The Gary Award for mentoring and development went to Dr. Sandy Darity and Kirsten Mullen. They are the husband-wife duo that wrote From Here to Equality, which is considered by us a staple Bible reading for reparations. They have spent countless hours, not just talking to the folks that you've met here today, but they speak at seminars. They're across this country, ripping and trailblazing, talking to anyone and everyone who wants to hear about pure reparations for the descendants of persons enslaved in these here United States. And last but not least, the Watts Award for Resiliency went to Abolish Slavery. And Abolish Slavery was Sam Brown that you heard Chris talk about. Next slide, please. The Repair Act. So a lot of times you hear people say, oh, we don't know what to do. We don't know what legislation looks like. That is where NAASD comes in. We teach those things. We have online trainings. We have online trainings for people who actually want to run for office. We want to get how we're talking to these different legislators, whether they are state or municipal. We want to start talking to them in the same way so that we can start moving things, not just here in California, but we can move things in Chicago. We can move things in New York. We can move things in Scotland Neck, North Carolina, that has a main street and 2,500 people. I went to a larger high school than the town where I'm from. But I keep going back because to me, that's where it really is. There was a slide up here that talked about how we are somewhat disconnected from like the state of Black America. I make sure I stay connected. I know where I'm from, and I go back to where I'm from. I go back to the burial site that was started by a woman named Mary Barnes. I thought growing up that Mary's Chapel was Mary, Mother of Jesus, right? You would think Mary's Chapel, that's Jesus' mama's church. That's her church. That is not her church. Mary Barnes, a former enslaved woman, had an inheritance when her daughter died, and she built a Black church and a Black cemetery because the Black people couldn't be buried where the white people were buried. And that is where my family is buried. So I go to pay homage to my family. The Repair Act, we drafted this body of work in 2019. This is our presidential priorities. If you go to naasd.org, you can click on the Repair Act and you can read some of these things. But these were 12 things we told President Biden, you could do these things by executive order. And I'm just going to give the top 3. So we wrote our own Reparations Commission. We paid tribute to John Conyers. We wrote Truth and Reconciliation Hearing. We got that from Barbara Lee. She's California, Northern California. She wrote it for like all of America's ills. We said, no, we're going to keep it on the freedmen's ills, on the Black people. We wrote that. And then we have this President's Advisory Commission by executive order. And somewhere on here is the Freedmen's Bureau. And I just want to talk about those 2 things. The Asian Pacific Islander community went to Barack Obama and said, hey, we're underrepresented. We need to see what government has going on so we can get in here and we can participate. Well, we said, well, we want to do the same thing. President Biden hasn't signed that initiative yet. But the Asian Pacific Islanders did get it out of the Democratic Party. The Freedmen's Bureau, I don't know how many of you ever read the veto speech that Johnson gave when he vetoed it, but one of the things that we kind of honed on into, it's like the last thing he said. It's almost the second to last paragraph in this pages long speech. And he said that basically he was vetoing it. He didn't want redress going to freedmen outside of what they would be entitled to as American citizens. And he said that once, if it doesn't work, if this thing that I do doesn't work, the president has the ability to bring it back. So we said, bring it back, President Biden. If the president that took it away said that another president could bring it back, we said, bring it back. And more importantly, he knew we weren't going to get redress. We've tried in this country to get redress for reparations under Callie House, and I think his name was Isaiah Dickerson, the ex-slave pension movement. The ex-slave pension movement ended in 1933. Again, my great-grandmother died in 2012, and she was 107 years old. My grandmother is 94. She'll be 95 this year. She lives with me. I'm going to move on because I got stuck. But the point with the Freedmen's Bureau, 3 branches of government. We weren't given redress at the court level. We still see our farmers losing at the court level. We were not given redress through Callie House and Isaiah Dickerson, ex-slave pension movement through Congress. And then the president is the last course of action. We haven't had any president bring redress. And so we have 3 levels of government. That's basic civics. We have 3 levels of government. All 3 levels of America's government has said no to this group of people. And we're here to address that. Next slide. This is us at our conference and our summit there in Texas. This is the team that put it all together. Here's Raphael, who got that award. We did that thing. It was very nice. It was at the National, Human and Civil Rights Museum that had a Martin Luther King installation. It was a beautiful facility. Next slide. These are the members of our board. Mark Stevenson is my vice president, but he's my co-facilitator. We have Tiffany Quarles, Lori Jenkins, and Michael Brown. We have a new secretary, Najee Jahan. This is the team, the national team that makes things happen. Next slide. Says our names again. No, some more people. And in summary, we're done. In summary, I just want to say, if you're trying to figure out how you may be able to bring something like this to Riverside, churches are in a little bit of a precarious situation, kind of like 501c3s. And one of the things that I say when I go talk to funders who want to understand how they should be adding to their portfolio, reparations is so hot topic now. It's part of a portfolio from funders. If you want to really repair this country, you can't lock people into 501c3 that can't do political work. You are going to have to write the check for 501c4s that can do political work. You are going to have to write a check for PACs that can put money behind candidates that actually have a reparations platform. You're going to have to put money behind parties, political parties that are not the Democratic Party, that are not the Republican Party. The 2-party system is failing. You're going to have to create a party system that actually allows us to get people into our local offices in particular that understand the need for redress for this community and body of people. That, I think, is all I have, Ms. Nita. NAASD.org. You are welcome to look us up, sign up for the newsletter. If you're looking for a place to just, do some coalition building, we're that body that can do it. For people who may be online, if you're looking to figure out how to start this legislative writing process, we can help you with that. Our largest accomplishment will be the full Repair Act, which we will be releasing to run in the 2024 election cycle. I like to say we are the educators. We won't do the lobbying because we can't, because we're 501c3 and we play by the rules, but we will certainly teach people that want to learn. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
As I know you have just totally enjoyed all this information that you've just gotten, I can't wait to continue to pray. Sometimes you just got to get excited about praying and asking God to show you your part. And just pray even for things that are not your part. So I hope you enjoyed this show today, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. We are going to be talking about mental health therapy with Dr. Shonda Smith. So you're going to definitely want to tune in next week for that. This is Charlyn Singleton, over and out from the Charlyn Singleton Show.